String bending is a technique that's essential for every guitarist to master. It brings life and emotion to your guitar playing. Soulful blues solos, country leads, and screaming rock anthems all take an amount of bending ability. If you haven't yet discovered string bending, this episode is for you, because this week we're flexing our finger muscles by bending strings from a little to a lot. Plus, stay tuned for some advanced bending techniques that you may have never seen or even heard before. Yeah, let's get nerdy. I'm Andy Schneider, career musician turned guitar coach, producer, and author of over 100 books from my publishing company, Sing Music Books. I was a high school band nerd, then a devoted jazz guy, then a backing musician for great artists in every type of music. From Austin to Nashville to New York City, I've learned from my musical experiences and the great musicians that were there with me. I'm a self-taught guitarist, but I was lucky enough to get the right bits of education early on in my career. Pairing that with the many conversations I've shared with more experienced musicians put me on the path to success, a path that built my skills to become the experienced, confident musician audiences enjoy today. I created the Guitar Nerd podcast to give you simple steps to building and growing your musical knowledge, having greater abilities, and getting that amazing music that's inside of you out and into the world where we can all enjoy it. Whether you're a beginner or experienced guitar or bass player, if you want to make fantastic music, you're in the right place, my friend. Now let's get nerdy. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, my string slingers. That's dumb. Welcome, everybody, to Guitar Nerd. My name is Andy Schneider. This is the place where we talk about all the nerdy stuff about guitars and bass guitars. I'm a big old guitar nerd myself. I have been since, 19... When did I start playing bass? Probably before everybody listening to this was born. Probably. Sometime in the 80s, I think I picked up my first bass guitar. And I still have it, and I still play it. That's still bass number one. Whether you're new to playing or you got some experience, you're going to find something here this week to energize your music. That's what it's all about. It's finding new techniques, finding new ideas, and putting life into the old ones that you thought you already had explored. Last week's episode was every knob of your amp. Every knob of your amp explained. I did a little dance, sang a little song about it, all the parts of an amplifier, because they are all kind of predictable, from a preamp on the left to EQ knobs in the middle to maybe a master volume and effects on the right. And they all kind of are built a little bit the same, more the same than different. So it's really nice to have a little understanding. If you haven't checked it out, go back and check out last week's episode, Every Knob of Your Amp Explained. This week we're exploring a technique, one of the most fundamental techniques that every guitarist needs to transform their playing. Mastering this can take you from sounding like a beginner to sounding like you're really getting somewhere. We're going to add a little bit of new dimension to your sound by bending strings. String bending is a fundamental technique that every guitarist should master. It's all about bending the string rather than simply fretting by pushing down. You're going to be pushing down and then pushing across the fretboard to tighten the string to change its pitch. Bending always changes the pitch up, makes it go sharp. Creates very expressive sounds that can't be achieved with fretted notes alone. One of my favorite things about the guitar is that it can emulate other instruments. Kind of like that one kind of bird that sits in a nest and emulates the other kind of bird sounds. We guitarists are that way too. Think about this. Well, let's just think about the example, because we're going to think about the example of a country guitarist. Okay, country guitar playing, I think, is so cool for many reasons, one of which is that the guitar will sometimes emulate another instrument in the band, like maybe a mandolin, right? Or maybe a piano. Little piano licks can be accomplished. What else can be accomplished? Sometimes they'll sound like the bass guitar, walking line, okay? And sometimes they'll even sound like a vocal. They'll sound like a vocalist. And when you think about vocal singing, what is it that lets you know you're listening to a person sing? Well, it's kind of obvious. There's words involved, right? There's words, there's lyrics. But let's just think about the sound, the timbre of what's going on. That pitch isn't as perfect as when you play them on a piano, say, where it's clink, clink, clink. They're exactly the same every time you do it. When humans sing, we're imperfect little instruments. And so things are always a little different from time to time, no matter how we try. And one of the cool things about the human instrument is that we can glide into notes. And it's that bending and vibrato that makes vocalizing so exciting and so human. Well, a guitarist can emulate that too. And bending is one of the great techniques when you want to be a more vocal-like guitar soloist. I brought my buddy, my trusty Telecaster, to demonstrate string bending. Right? We all know that sound from country music. So an ordinary fretted note goes like this. And if you've never bent before, you just simply fret that note and then push. I recommend starting by pushing up towards your face, right? Up away from the floor. So I'm keeping it in nice, solid, even contact with the fret. And I'm pushing across and never letting go. Okay, that's the basics of bending. And if you haven't done it before, get crazy. Go ahead and bend everything. Give it all a try. Sometimes a bend is best achieved by pushing it up towards you. And other times, especially if it's on a lower string, you may need to pull it down towards the floor. All kinds of bends are possible, from the little to the over the top to the very, very, very subtle. And some guitar players make a life out of being extremely subtle and clever with their bending, just because it adds a certain something that they don't get by fretting the notes alone. Now, before you get too far into it, first of all, if you haven't bent before, just go ahead. Just make it happen, and you're going to have a lot on your plate just getting those bends to sound good, to sound constant and even, so that you stay in contact and play a nice legato long note. That's enough. And after you start being confident that you can play them, that you can get a note achieved, you're going to want to have a goal in mind. The reason to bend is usually to bend to the next note. And the next note might be just one fret higher, as in. So that's my fretted interval. That's just a half step. It's one fret's distance. Well, now I'm going to bend that interval. Instead of fretting each note, I'm going to play. Hear it? It's the same notes. Okay, that's a half step bend. You'll see this in tablature or in sheet music, often written out. They'll kind of do like a little wiggly line going up like a little stairway with a number 1/2, with the number 1/2 written to it, and that's what they mean, a half step bend. You can also aim for a full step. Let me try for a full step bend. Okay, that's a full step bend. Half step, full step. You can always stop and check. I didn't really like my pitch on that last one. There it is. And it's good every so often to do what I just did. Try the bend just to make sure that you're staying in tune and that you're hitting the note you mean to. Go ahead and play the fretted equivalent of it. Make sure that the pitch sounds the same. Okay. Have a goal in mind. Half step or whole step. There's also all kinds of fun stuff that you can do with adding little ornaments. Right? Adding little ornaments. That's kind of fun. That's half the point. I am bending right now, in case you're wondering what I'm doing. I'm playing with my third finger. Playing with my third finger on the third string, on the G string. I'm at the 7th fret. I'm playing a D. Pretty easy string to bend, and it's a pretty easy place to start bending. You're going to want to be able to play bends all over the neck, so try them on every string, up high, down low. Here's some down more close to the nut. This is a great place to start. For your very first bend, I want you to try this one. This is on the 3rd fret of the 6th string. So I'm fingering G, 3rd fret of the low E string. And I want you to just bend it up a half step. I'm going to bend it 2. And then play an open E. Probably the easiest bend to achieve. I think that's almost everybody's first one. And boy, it's a lot of fun. Plus, you'll probably be using it the whole rest of your life. I know I do. Okay, if you think that you've got single note bends in mind, there's a technique which is a little bit more advanced than just playing one bent string. It's adding another fretted note, another fretted string to the mix. Here we go. Back to this this D. How about a sound like this? Do you know that sound from country? Again, imitating another one of the country band's instruments, probably a pedal steel. That's probably where this lick came from. What I'm doing is applying the full step bend. And once I've got it up there, I'm adding my pinky finger on the B string. I'm adding my pinky finger on the B string at the 8th fret. So it looks like 7th fret on the G string, 8th fret on the B string. Okay, and just ending that with a little C and an E. I don't know what it is about those 2-note bends that just grabs my heart. Just made me want to play country guitar, I think, in the first place. And after you get accomplished with bending one string by itself, you're going to have no trouble adding a second. Okay, do you think you have single string bends mastered? Cool. Then it must be time to nerd out. Let's get nerdy about the string bending stuff because it gets really interesting and a lot more diverse than the techniques we've seen so far. Let me just introduce you to a few. If you're an experienced player, an experienced bender, you still may want to take a listen to these and see if there isn't something that you'd like to put in your playing bag. How about reverse bends? You heard me do them a little bit. I would bend a string up and then let it come down. I don't have to. I could stop it and catch it with my picking hand, or I could let it go up and then down, or I could bend it silently. Right? I'm going to get into that bent position without anybody seeing me, without anybody knowing it, and then I'm going to pick the note. It sounds like I bent the string down, which we know is impossible. You can't make a string more loose, more slack just by playing it. You have to untighten the tuners in order to do that. But you can be really clever and tighten it up in advance. So I'm going to silently go from, and I'm just not going to play it while I'm getting up to here. And now that my finger is already bent, I've got that string in the bent position, I'm going to pluck it and release. I like that. That's a fun little way to add some spice to a solo. Nobody sees that one coming. Everybody might get used to the fact that you're bending and you're a bending master and you're bending up, but they're not ready for you to start bending down. Throw that one in and surprise the whole audience. Watch the looks on their faces. How about bending and then adding a harmonic? Have you ever done this, or have you ever seen anybody do it? I know a few players who are especially good at this one, and it's just the coolest thing ever. You want to talk about a rock and roll howl. This is really fun. I'm going to take one of the places I think it's easiest to do this is on the A string at the 5th fret. I'm going to pick that D. It's kind of easiest on the bass strings. So on the wound strings, I'm going to play this D, 5th fret on the A string. And I'm going to bend it up to an E. Okay, not too hard. It's pretty easy. But then while I've got it up there, I'm going to stick my picking finger out. Now, I don't happen to have a pick in my hands. That's okay. If I did, I'd still hold the pick in between my thumb and my 3rd finger and get this little note happening this way. And then I'm going to bend it up and then lightly touch at the 1, 2, 3, at the 17th fret, which is kind of like the 5th fret above the 12th fret. Okay, the 12th fret is your octave, right? So at the 12th fret, generally has a double dot on it. That's your 12th fret, and that's an octave above A. That's a harmonic. 5 frets above that, you'll notice there's probably another dot on your guitar. That's the D. That's 12 frets above this 5 fret D. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this D, bend it, and then I'm going to, did you hear that? I'm going to touch the harmonic. So what's happening is I'm putting it into motion by plucking the D. It gets a little bit louder and bigger as I pull it down towards the floor to pull it up to the note E. Here it got just a little bit louder, which is good because we're going to use that extra energy while it's going to lightly touch at the 17th fret. That's an octave above your fretting hand, right? Your fretting hand is on 5. You're going to touch at 5 plus 12. That's 17. And it's just such a cool sound. The more gain that you have, the better it is. I'm going to turn this up just so you can hear what it really sounds like. Okay, that's bending plus the octave harmonic. A slick little trick that really sets audiences on fire. And it just sounds so cool. It sounds like a baying wolf, doesn't it? Yeah, if we can imitate a human voice, why not a wolf voice, I guess. And then there's one more technique that I want to share with you nerds, because this is also a super surpriser if the audience isn't familiar with it. And boy, you don't see many people do it. But you can actually bend from behind the nut. What does that mean, Andy? The nut. Do you know, first of all, where the nut is? It's the end of the string. There by your fretting hand, it's the termination, usually a little white piece of bone or plastic that's in between the vibrating parts of the string and the little bits up at the tuners, right? Okay. If you bend behind the nut, let's say you play an open string G. And right now I've got my hand up, almost like you'd think I'm going to reach for a tuner. It's up over the headstock. And I've got a couple of fingers on that G string past the nut and the part of the string that's not vibrating, right? So I can touch it all I want to. It won't stop or alter the vibration of the string. But if I push down, it's a very fluid and easy place to bend. Now, this depends on the guitar a little bit because we have things like little string tees, and depending on the actual build of your headstock, some guitars give you more room than others. But if you get something great like a Telecaster, it's almost built for this sort of action. So I'm going to play a little lick made up of bends like that. Lots of fun to be had by bending. There's so many different techniques. I'm certain that you can find some new ones that I haven't covered here. There's so many ways to apply bending. See what you come up with this week. Let's go have fun flexing our finger muscles. This week we've explored the basics of string bending, from choosing your interval to advanced techniques like reverse bends and behind the nut bends. String bending is a powerful tool for adding emotion and expression to your playing. Experiment with these techniques this week. See how they can transform your sound in your playing. Thank you to everyone who has been subscribing to this podcast. I love hearing from you guys. I love fielding your questions. And keep them coming. Keep that practicing coming. And it's just great to know that lights are going on and people are starting to get real crafty with their music. That is the coolest thing that I've ever heard. I love a world full of music, and you got it in you. Next week is You Gotta Get the Blues. Yeah, not you're gonna get the blues. I hope not to give you the blues with this episode, but you gotta get the blues. You know what I mean? Almost any kind of music, almost any genre today, with a few exceptions, but definitely all the popular genres are based in the blues, aren't they? Yeah, everything came from the blues. Blues influenced jazz, it influenced then rock and roll, and everything else came from that. So at the heart of it all, if you want to go back to the roots of why you're doing what you're doing, why you're making the music you're making, it's because of the blues, right? So why not put at least a couple of those skills in your playing bag just to amplify your sonic palette. Yeah. I love the blues. I've been playing it for years, and I think I always will. You've got great music inside of you, musician. Let's get it out. Let's get it into the world. Everybody needs to hear you. You can do this. It's just one little practice session at a time, and this week you got bending to throw into your mix. Yeah, try incorporating some of these bending techniques into your practice this week. Listen to your favorite guitarists. Listen to how they use bending. Do they bend up? Do they bend down? Do they bend to vibrato like I did for a second there? There's all kinds of ways to use it, and now you've got a little insight on how to use it in your music. Until next time, have a great nerdy week. I'm Andy Schneider, and you've been listening to Guitar Nerd.